I was changing the coolant connector on the heater core, and I mentioned doing the brake booster. I did it nice and quick like. Here's the old part. It was leaking quite profusely out the bottom, and it was actually starting to leak into the cab through here where the pedal connects up to the shaft. Honestly, there wasn't all that much interesting to show on doing the job. The bolts on the inside were a little difficult to get to, but nothing that a long extension and a flexible connection didn't take care of. So got that all done. Now we're no longer leaking. I did go ahead and do the upgrade where I put in the 2011 part for the LMM. One thing I thought was interesting is I didn't have to do any of the drilling out that everybody claims to have to do on this to make it fit the pedal properly. I looked at those closely. They were the same size, so it was a very simple swap. I pulled this one out, put the new one in, hooked up the connections. There's only the 2 high pressure connections and the return, and it works great. It gave me great pedal response, and I'm really happy with the result. And best thing of all, it's not leaking anymore. It was dripping so much fluid out the bottom right here that it was starting to leave puddles on the ground. So glad to get that done. Definitely worth the upgrade. I'll go ahead and share the part number in the description for this video, but my project for today is not this. I want to work on correcting some of the paint here on the back of my truck. The tailgate's got some pretty nasty chips here. You may not be able to see it. There's some bubbling going on around here. And when I first got this truck, this blemish was already there. This one was a lot smaller. And I thought, well, I'll take my time and get to it. It was winter time when I got the truck, so I figured it was too cold to try to paint it, and my garage isn't quite big enough to fit this truck, so I couldn't take it inside to paint it. So waiting on the weather, and the chip kept getting worse, and it's slowly progressing down. So at this point I really need to sand all this down, smooth it out with a lot of the other stuff around it. The primer that I'm going to use, matched on the color basically, says I'm going to have to sand it down to 600 grit, and then I got some color match AC Delco paint. I'm just going to try to blend this in with everything else. Alright, I'm just going to start with a 150 sandpaper and just try to get this smoothed out so we don't have these rough edges, and try to knock off any of this stuff that's already peeled once. So here we go. Actually, I don't think that turned out too bad. It looks like we got a lot of our hard edges down just with that 150. It's time to switch to a different grit. Let's go higher. I'm already kind of excited. This is starting to look pretty good, where I think we're gonna get it to stop chipping. Make sure that we can keep her shiny and chrome. I got my piece of 400 grit out here on the sanding block. Now let's get this going. Feels pretty smooth to the touch. That's a good sign, I think. So, I gotta share something here. In the US, we put so much of this on products that I think we want people to think are durable, which is funny, this is a consumable. But Dura Gold is what this brand is. In Russian, Dura means idiot. So we often find comedy in our household as looking at different products. What do they take me for, an idiot? Let's switch over to the 800 grit and see if we can smooth this out a little bit. Okay, an hour has passed and the weather is trying to make fun of me. I put up this tent just to make sure that if it starts to rain, we don't get wet while we're trying to paint. Paint says to sand it to 400 grit, so I'm gonna get some 400 grit and sand it down a little bit. Here we go. All right, let's see how this goes. It's not looking too bad. It's a good color match. My wife was just commenting that it looks like it's more of a matte finish over there versus the shine over here. But I think we let it dry and we can get some polishing compound and that won't be a problem. This was all of 5 ounces and I was able to cover this little area here. So what is that, like maybe 6 square feet? Okay, so we got a little bit right there. The tape was covering part of it up. That's unfortunate. And then got a similar line here above where it says Sierra. And here it actually blended pretty decent. And I think once I polish it down or maybe give it a really light sanding with a high grit, I think it's gonna come out with a very similar finish. If nothing else, it looks a lot better than it did because it doesn't have this big, nasty, ugly spot right there. And from 5 to 10 feet away, it looks pretty good. Far from good, but good from afar.